Imagine stepping into a world where every shadow hides a nightmare, and every corner echoes with silent screams. Welcome to the haunting universe of Zdzisław Beksiński, the artist whose dark visions were shaped by the horrors of war and personal tragedy. Join me as we unravel the mysteries behind his nightmarish masterpieces and the turbulent life that fueled his art. Zdzisław Beksiński was born on February 24, 1929, in Sanhok, Poland, a small town nestled in the Carpathian Mountains. His early years were marked by the tumultuous events of World War II, which deeply impacted his young mind. Beksiński's childhood was far from ordinary. The sights and sounds of war became the backdrop of his formative years, instilling in him a profound sense of fear and uncertainty. Beksiński's parents provided him with a stable and loving environment, despite the chaos around him. His father was a civil engineer, and this exposure to technical precision likely influenced Beksiński's later architectural interests. We can see this in his paintings of famous religious buildings, such as Notre Dame, covered in flesh and decay. These architectural marvels, with a grotesque twist, became a recurring theme in his art. After completing high school, he moved to Krakow to study architecture at the Krakow University of Technology. Although he successfully graduated, Beksiński found little satisfaction in the conventional practice of architecture. It was in the 1950s that Beksiński began to explore photography and sculpture. His photographs from this period often depicted bleak, desolate landscapes and eerie, manipulated images that foreshadowed his later work in painting. His sculptures were equally unsettling, frequently featuring twisted forms and deformed figures that seemed to cry out in anguish. He faced significant criticism for his unconventional approach to photography, particularly during the late 1950s and 60s. His work rejected traditional aesthetics, favoring manipulated, eerie and stylized images over the sharp, realistic and unmanipulated photos that dominated the field. Critics found his provocative subjects and deliberate blurring techniques jarring, and his 1957 photograph, Sadus Corset, with the grotesque and surreal styling, was particularly polarizing. At a time when straight photography was highly valued, Beksiński's manipulation of images and his philosophical stance, viewing photography as an expressive, creative medium rather than a tool to capture reality, were controversial. In his article, The Crisis of Photography and the Perspective to Overcome It, he argued for artistic freedom in photography, challenging fundamental principles valued by traditionalists. Traditionalists resisted his avant-garde methods, dismissing them as overly eccentric or self-indulgent. Despite these criticisms, Beksiński remained steadfast in his vision, using photography to explore his artistic ideas and laying the groundwork for his later success in painting. In the early 1960s, Beksiński shifted his focus to painting, the medium through which he would gain international acclaim. He quickly developed a distinctive style that blended surrealism, dystopian imagery, and elements of fantasy littered with religious symbols. His early paintings were categorized by intense, vivid colors and intricate details, drawing viewers into nightmarish worlds where decay and beauty coexisted. Beksiński had a unique approach to his art. He famously avoided providing explanations or interpretations of his work, preferring to let the image speak for themselves. Thus, he never named or dated any of his over 300 paintings. He once said, "I wish to paint in such a manner as if I were photographing a dream." This enigmatic stance allowed viewers to bring their own experience and emotions to his work, creating a deep personal connection with each piece. Beksiński believed that interpretations should be left to viewers and disliked attributing specific symbolism to his paintings. He said, "Meaning is meaningless to me. I do not care for symbolism, and I paint what I paint without meditating on a story. Beksiński preferred his work to be admired or contemplated without viewers seeking a definite meaning. It's hard not to see symbolism in his paintings, and to wonder how his personal life and his environment influenced his art, especially that of religious symbols. Crosses were a major theme in his works, often depicting them alongside his hellish figures. The crosses came in two different forms, one of the normal Christian cross, and the other as a cross but without a headpiece. What does this mean? Well, for Beksiński it meant one thing, but what does it mean to us on a personal level? One of my favorite pieces is the one showcasing this bluish figure looming over a cradle. On the wall, in hoc signo vinces is inscribed. It means in the sign thou will conquer, which is a testament to the Nazi party and their mob mentality. But it can to some extent be attributed to religion and their use of conquering under signs and symbols. This is quite unsettling, seeing that one is used for annihilation and world domination, while the other uses it to save lives and lead its followers to heaven. Authoritarian states and mob mentality were also prominent themes in his paintings. This might be due to World War II and the time he grew up in. Many of the scenes depicted showcase a pseudo-Hobbesian state where many of the figures are reluctant to rise up against the state and just seem to bear the suffering the ruler is forcing on them. Another thing I noticed was his use of communist symbols. Although World War II was the fight against fascism, Beksiński still didn't have all the freedom he wanted in communist Poland. Beksiński's use of communist symbols in his paintings reflects the oppressive and dystopian atmosphere of communist Poland, which lasted from 1945 to 1989. His works often depicted themes of fear, oppression, and decay, using these symbols to enhance the sense of unease and critique the repressive regime. During this period, Poland was an authoritarian state, controlled by the Polish United Workers' Party, marked by limited political freedoms, widespread censorship, and economic hardship. The 1980s saw increased resistance, culminating in semi-free elections in 1989 that ended communist rule and began Poland's transition to democracy. Beksiński's art captures the challenge and resistance experienced during this era. And then we come to blue. In Zdzisław Beksiński's paintings, the color blue holds significant and dark symbolism. The exact shade, Prussian blue, is historically linked to the cyanide-based pesticides, Zyklon B, used by the Nazis in gas chambers during the Holocaust. The blue residue was often left behind on the walls of the gas chambers, serving as a grim reminder of the atrocities committed. In Beksiński's art, Prussian blue appears in various contexts, often invoking a sense of death, despair, and the haunting legacy of war and genocide. The use of this specific color underscores the pervasive influence of his experience and memories of World War II and the horrors associated with it. In the 1990s, Beksiński experimented with digital art, using programs like Photoshop to manipulate his photographs and create new images. He found this medium refreshing, allowing him to create artificial realities from different perspectives. However, Beksiński eventually grew frustrated with digital art and returned to painting in the 2000s. It's attested to the fact that Photoshop and digital mediums were not really quite perfected and still needed a lot of work. Despite the digital era being his least popular phase, it showed his willingness to explore new artistic frontiers. He worked in seclusion, often listening to classical music or rock while he painted. This is an important fact to me. Creative people are often the mediators between the known and the unknown, music and art being the most popular mediums. This emphasizes the point yet again that he wanted to capture dreams in his art, not reality. His love of music gave him an uncapped supply of drive to complete his creative works, who shows us what lies in our creative and religious domains. Beksiński's dedication to his craft was unwavering. He painted daily, even in the face of personal tragedy. His studio was his sanctuary, a place where he could escape the chaos of the outside world and delve into the depths of his imagination. The darkness of Beksiński's art was not just a product of his imagination, it was deeply rooted in his personal life. In 1998, his wife, Zofia, passed away after a long illness. This loss was a devastating blow to Beksiński, who had relied on her companionship and support throughout his career. Just a year later, his son, Thomas, a well-known music journalist and radio presenter, took his own life. These twin tragedies plunged Beksiński into a deep depression, and his art became even more introspective and somber. This was his last painting, and like most of his works, it became grey. The vibrant colours of his earlier paintings were replaced by muted, almost monochromatic platters. The themes of decay and death became more pronounced as he grappled with his grief and the sense of loss that permeated his life. It's as if he was pretending to be a nihilist in all his previous artworks, but now he has finally become what he always masqueraded as. In a tragic twist befitting the tone of his art, Beksiński's life ended violently on February 21, 2005. Just days before his 76th birthday, he was brutally murdered in his Warsaw apartment by a teenage acquaintance, the son of his caretaker. He was stabbed 17 times. The motive was shockingly trivial, a dispute over a small amount of money. Beksiński's death was a grim end to life, marked by both incredible artistic achievement and profound personal sorrow. Today, Beksiński's works are housed in the museum and private collections around the globe. The Historical Museum in Sanhok, Poland, holds the largest collection of his works, offering a comprehensive view of his artistic evolution. His influence extended beyond the art world, permeating popular culture in various forms, from film and literature to video games and music. He stands as a testament to what we value in life and how we explore the depths of the unknown through the use of such profound creative visionaries as himself. It seems that Beksiński didn't paint because he wanted to. Rather, it seemed that he couldn't live if he could not create, as is with all great artists. His creative works had a profound impact on how we see art, and how not to interpret it, but rather to be moved by it.